Next on the news, grateful to God, the Christian group reacting to the news that 3 more missionaries have been released by a violent Haitian gang after 6 weeks in captivity. The fate of several more is still unknown. Bishop Robert Brennan attends his first Christmas luncheon in support of Catholic education and youth ministries in Brooklyn and Queens. Tensions are high as President Biden and Russia's President Vladimir Putin meet to discuss the volatile situation at the Ukrainian border.
It's shocking because we didn't even know that there was a problem with Japan at that time.
And it's been 80 years since the attack on Pearl Harbor. Veterans from America's greatest generation reflect on their decades-long service as America remembers their sacrifice. I'm Jessica Easthope. Currents News starts right now. There's some good news out of Haiti. 3 more Christian missionaries who were abducted and held hostage for almost 7 weeks have been released. Christian Aid missionaries announcing they are safe and in good spirits, but 12 more remain abducted after the group of mostly Americans was taken at gunpoint back in October by a violent Haitian gang. Good news out of Haiti Monday morning, with word that 3 more missionaries kidnapped more than 6 weeks ago by a Haitian gang have been released. That includes a mother and her child, according to a senior U.S. official. 17 people working on behalf of Christian Aid Ministries were taken at gunpoint back in mid-October, including 16 Americans and 1 Canadian. In a statement Monday morning, the group said, quote, "We are thankful to God that 3 more hostages were released last night. Those who were released are safe and seem to be in good spirits. As with the previous release, we are not able to provide the names of the people released, the circumstances of the release, or any other details." Among the kidnapped were an infant, a 3-year-old, a 6-year-old, and 2 teenagers. It's unclear which of those children have been released. 2 hostages, both adults, were released just over 2 weeks ago, bringing the total to 5 freed so far. While that is undoubtedly good news, it also highlights that 12 people remain hostages of the 400 Mawozo gang. The group authorities say is responsible for the kidnapping, one of Haiti's most powerful. The group has built a reputation recently for violence, using kidnapping as a key way to earn income and terrorize the community it dominates, a Port-au-Prince suburb called Croix des Bouquets. The gang's leader says,
"I'm ready to fight with anyone. I don't need many guys with me. Sometimes people kidnap people, take cars, and the parents called me to negotiate. I negotiate and take the money."
The gang also kidnapped a French priest earlier this year.
It was like a dark hole, he says, like a prison cell, the last place we were in, with no windows. At the beginning, they were giving us food once a day, but by the end, they stopped feeding us. They forced us to go hungry, he said, believing it was a negotiation tactic.
This as Haiti's interim government, led by Prime Minister Ariel Henry, has been unable to curb swelling gang violence across the country. Security forces at times overmatched by criminal groups. Some have even managed to cut off the flow of fuel into the country in recent months, leading to critical gasoline shortages nationwide. A source in Haiti security forces says that negotiations are ongoing between the gang and Christian Aid Ministries. It's still unclear why 5 of the original 17 were freed, but the hope is that the remaining 12, still being held hostage, will follow them to freedom soon. According to the latest numbers out of Haiti, kidnappings across the country soared to over 900, with just a small percentage involving foreigners. The vast majority of kidnapping victims for ransom are ordinary Haitian citizens. We're reminded of the true meaning of the holiday season at the Bishop's Christmas Luncheon today, a fundraiser benefiting a cause close to the hearts of those in the Diocese of Brooklyn. The Ave Maria started off the event, which raises money for the Bishop's Scholarship Fund to help send children across the diocese to Catholic school. 900 people attended the annual luncheon at Russo's on the Bay in Queens, and it was Bishop Robert Brennan's first. 3 people were honored. That's Bishop Emeritus Nicholas DiMarzio, who received the St. John Paul II Distinguished Stewardship Award. He's standing with Editor Emeritus of the Tablet, Ed Wilkinson, who was presented with the Emma A. Daniels Benefactor Award, and Robert Sherling, Board Chair of Divine Wisdom Catholic Academy, who received the Spirit of Hope Award. Bishop Brennan commended the work of the Diocese of Brooklyn in keeping Catholic education a priority.
What we're doing today is really the product of foresight, vision, a lot of hard work and pulling people together in a team effort. And I owe, we all owe a great debt of gratitude. People like you make a difference. You make an enormous difference in the lives of so many children and so many families.
Organizers say for students and families who require financial assistance, the pandemic made the need even greater. The event raised more than $300,000, which will go towards scholarships for hundreds of students and the support of Catholic Youth Ministry Initiative of the Diocese of Brooklyn. A native of Brooklyn could soon become a saint. The Archdiocese of New York is advancing Dorothy Day's cause for canonization to the Vatican's Congregation for the Causes of Saints. Day, who spent her young adulthood as a writer and activist, experienced an astounding conversion from atheism to Catholicism in 1927 when she was 30 years old. She then went on to establish soup kitchens, group homes, and farming communities all over the world. The event, which signals the conclusion of a national process investigating Day's holiness, will be marked with a mass celebrated at St. Patrick's Cathedral. The ceremony will be live streamed online at stpatrickscathedral.org/live. Down in the nation's capital, President Biden held a high-stakes virtual meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin Tuesday morning, warning there would be several economic repercussions if the growing military presence along the Ukrainian border continues. The White House releasing this statement saying, quote, President Biden voiced the deep concerns of the United States and our European allies about Russia's escalation of forces surrounding Ukraine and made clear that the U.S. and our allies would respond with strong economic and other measures in the event of military escalation. During the 2-hour call, the president stressed the United States' commitment to Ukraine's sovereignty and call for a de-escalation and a return to normalcy. The Labor Department released its November jobs report showing a disappointing increase in employment despite recent gains. Overall, the U.S. added only 210,000 jobs in November. That's less than half of the 550,000 jobs analysts projected for the month. However, the unemployment rate sunk from 4.6% to 4.2%, landing less than 1 percentage point above the pre-pandemic jobless rate. Meanwhile, China is threatening retaliation against the Biden administration, saying the U.S. president's decision to boycott the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics could harm bilateral relations. It comes after the Biden administration said it will not send an official delegation to the Winter Games as a statement against China's, quote, ongoing genocide and crimes against humanity. But it won't be a complete boycott, as U.S. athletes will still be allowed to compete. The last time the U.S. fully boycotted the Olympics was in 1980 when former President Jimmy Carter was in office. A moment of silence, President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden paying their respects at the World War II Memorial in D.C., honoring 80 years since the attack on Pearl Harbor. Dozens of World War II veterans gathered in Hawaii over the weekend for the 80th remembrance ceremony of the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Bryce Jordan was a pilot in the U.S. Army Air Corps. Now, at age 97, he is one of dozens of World War II veterans who made the trip to Hawaii in remembrance of those lost.
The 80th anniversary is amazing to me. I think it's wonderful that us old veterans get a chance to do that. It means so much, especially at the last years of my life. It's just so important. Called it the greatest generation. We went from knowing nothing to knowing so much.
As the members of the greatest generation get smaller in number every year, these men hope their stories will be retold so that younger Americans never forget. Another Pearl Harbor survivor is attending the 80th anniversary of the attack in Honolulu thanks to the kindness of others. Jim Mendoza has more on the 101-year-old recipient of crowdfunding generosity.
On December 7, 1941, Ira Schaub was a musician in the United States Navy, assigned to the USS Dobbin. That Sunday morning, he was getting dressed to meet his brother when Japan attacked Battleship Row.
It's hard to say what the feelings that run through your mind are. You're scared, You don't know what's going to happen next.
During the bombings, Schaub helped load his ship's anti-aircraft guns.
When I realized we were under attack, I got busy doing what I was told, but passing ammunition and getting that sort of stuff done.
Schaub was 21 years old that day. He's now 101. Kimberly Heinrich says as her father has gotten older, he shared more about his Pearl Harbor experience.
You know that it was a significant thing. You know, he was pulling bodies out of the water.
Schaub is the last surviving member of Navy Band 13. He wanted to come back for the 80th commemoration to represent his unit.
80 years is a long, long time, and I'm still here.
But his health requires 2 caregivers, and his family couldn't afford it, so they turned to crowdfunding.
What was most amazing to me is that people did respond. I don't have words to really thank these people.
Thanks to the generosity of total strangers, Schaub will be one of about 40 Pearl Harbor survivors at the December 7th ceremony.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart. That was very generous and unexpected and very kind, and I am forever grateful.
When he's here, Schaub will meet a member of another Navy band who also survived the attack, and he'll return to his musical roots as a guest conductor for the Pacific Fleet Band. Jim Mendoza.
There's a lot more news headed your way. The Big Apple is set to impose some of the strongest vaccine mandates in the country, but there's still a lot we don't know. The mayor's office is promising answers. Then the pandemic is affecting holiday shopping. Could some kids' Christmas favorites be a no-show under the tree this year? And former Brooklyn Dodgers and New York Mets great Gil Hodges is posthumously inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. We talked to his son about the honor. Stay with us.
There are now some big changes to the tablet website. You can get personalized access to the Catholic news you value. Sign up for free at thetablet.org.
Mayor Bill de Blasio's announcement that all private sector employees must be vaccinated by December 27th leaves many wondering how the order will be enforced. The mayor's office is promising to release additional guidance by next week. So far as kids as young as 5 now have to show proof of vaccination to get into a New York City restaurant or a movie theater. The mayor's bold step also applies to many school activities. Kids must be vaccinated to attend activities considered high risk, like band, sports, and dance. And while the Omicron variant is spreading, it's Delta that still dominates. As Britt Conway reports, COVID-19 cases are once again on the rise.
This is the winter surge that so many of us predicted.
A COVID-19 surge that's averaging more than 120,000 new cases and more than 1,600 deaths every day.
As the weather turned colder, as we all started spending more time indoors, and as other layers of protection like masks and ventilation started to disappear, we were going to see increased case numbers.
Public health officials say more than 99% of new cases are the Delta variant, but Omicron is spreading. Cases of the variant have been reported in at least 19 states. Emerging evidence shows it may spread more quickly than Delta, but possibly be less severe.
From the virus's standpoint, it wants to do 2 things. It wants to become more contagious, that way it can continue to spread, but it also wants to become less virulent, less likely to cause severe disease. It's never to the virus's advantages to kill you, because then it can't be transmitted anymore. It needs you to reproduce itself.
Which could play to our advantage.
You have a virus that could knock out a more virulent strain like Delta and evolve to what would be the best case scenario, evolve to essentially a common cold-like virus.
But experts say there's still more to learn about Omicron. In the meantime,
our best protection are these vaccines.
I'm Britt Conway reporting.
The pandemic continues to upend the supply chain. The chaos at Chinese ports and the U.S. trucker shortage has some shop owners worried that holiday giving will be impacted this season. Claire Sebastian reports that they just don't know if key products will arrive in time.
Staff at this New York City toy store had no idea they'd be getting this delivery of books and toys today, or that all of the orders would be incomplete.
We're placing orders every day, constantly, as many as we can think of. One of my bigger companies, I ordered huge order in February, and it just shipped a couple weeks ago. So it's so hard to determine when and if things are going to come.
The enticing displays here mask an unprecedented inventory problem. Many items running out.
I have 3 of these. There's no more downstairs. I have 3 of these. There's no more downstairs.
Others in oversupply.
I've got about 20 times that in my basement.
And behind the scenes,
this is what my very messy office looks like, with shipping out to be done and shipping in to process.
Christina Clark says she was warned by suppliers to stockpile ahead of the holidays. 85% of all toys sold in the US are imported, according to the Toy Association. And right now, the ships that carry them, mostly from Asia, are stuck in a giant maritime traffic jam, the result of surging demand as economies recover and ongoing COVID-related disruptions.
That combination of online shopping, COVID shutdowns, resupplying things that were out of stock, and the holidays together have all combined into what, really is a crisis of shipping and a crisis of consumer products.
And it's sending costs skyrocketing.
The average shipping container has gone from somewhere right around $3,000 to around $24,000 on the spot market.
Christina Clark says many of her suppliers have raised prices twice this year, and some are now tacking on a shipping surcharge. Her message to customers: start your holiday shopping now. This will not be over by Christmas. Claire Sebastian, New York.
Still to come on Currents News, baseball great Gil Hodges is finally a Hall of Famer. We talked to his namesake about the historic honor, decades in the making. And another honor, this time for Cardinal Timothy Dolan, presented with the 7th Annual Spirit of Francis Award for his work with the marginalized. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number 718-517-3122. We'll be right back.
Perillo beat out an infield hit. Hodges slams an outside pitch over the fence in right center field, scoring Perillo ahead of him, and Brooklyn takes a 4-3 lead.
First baseman, manager, all-star, and devout Catholic. That is how the late great ball player Gil Hodges is being described until now. The former Brooklyn Dodgers and New York Mets star is posthumously been inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame, a national honor and recognition for his family. His son, Gil Hodges Jr., joins us now to talk about the long-awaited tribute. And Gil, your dad has been on the ballot for this 35 times. Now here we are nearly 50 years after his passing. How does it feel to finally get the recognition?
Well, it's been a long time coming, but we're certainly thrilled that it finally came to fruition. We all think that it's well-deserved, and we're glad that it happened.
Describe that moment when Jane Forbes Clark, the Baseball Hall of Fame chairman, called your family with that amazing news.
Well, I live in Florida, and my mom is in Brooklyn. So like we do whenever this situation arises, my sister who lives in Brooklyn was at the house with her. And when she got the call, she handed it to Mom, and Mom got to hear Jane Forbes Clark tell her that Dad was elected to the Hall of Fame. And she just couldn't believe it. It was just, a long time coming.
What do you think your dad would say about all of this?
I think he'd be thrilled. Of course, any induction into the Hall of Fame is just a wonderful tribute, not only to your playing abilities, but to your character. And I think that's something that he would be very proud of.
Now, your dad was not just a great ball player, he was a devout Catholic. Tell us about how he practiced his faith on the road and how he helped shape the Catholic you are today.
Well, he was a very devout Catholic. He felt very strong about his religion and his religious beliefs. I, being the only son, got to travel with Dad during the summer. And whenever we would be in other cities, every Sunday, regardless of the city, regardless of how late we got in Saturday night from the ball game, Sunday morning we were up and we were at church, something he believed strongly in, and taught all of his children the same thing.
Do you and your family have plans to travel up to Cooperstown in July?
We wouldn't miss it. This has been a long time waiting, so yes.
Gil Hodges Jr., son of Baseball Hall of Famer Gil Hodges, congratulations and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on. All the best.
Finally, tonight, New York Cardinal Timothy Dolan was awarded with the 7th Annual Spirit of Francis Award. Catholic Extension, a Chicago-based papal mission society, honored Cardinal Dolan for his solidarity with the Catholic Church in Cuba and for his advocacy for the weak and marginalized. Since 2016, Catholic Extension has made a commitment to help rebuild 100 churches in Cuba, and proceeds from the award dinner benefit the initiative. And that is Currents News. I'm Jessica Easthope. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Before we go, we want to leave you with some moving images from today's 80th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor. Hope to see you again next time.